So let's see. Yeah, so it's these situations that where they may know their abuser, right, and are betrayed by that abuser, and I can't imagine how frightening and confusing that would be to an animal. I'm gonna just open the chat, although I don't know if I want another something in the. I see there's some stuff in the chat, and I always kind of want to keep an eye out for anything, but we'll have time for Q&A at the end too. Um, oh, can people still hear me? I hope so. It says the speaker, move your microphone closer. I'll speak up. Hopefully that is not a problem anymore. It's a little while ago, but I hope you can hear me. All right. All right. So you know what? Let me check my volume. Yeah, my volume's up. All right. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, so going on, let's see. Oh, this is a really important point that I want to throw in here. And, that is that just to finish up the small farm thing, just because it's a small farm, just because it's a family farm or has some label like family, or you've met the rancher at the farmer's market or whatever, that doesn't mean that first of all, there weren't numerous industry standard cruelties, all those cruelties that they just have to have, that they inherently have to have, that's just universal to making the product profitable, things that they can't circumvent even if they wanted to, they have to separate the babies at birth. They have to take the dairy cows' babies away because they have to sell that milk. So there's these inherent cruelties that they really just, have to do. Even if they wanted to not do that, they wouldn't be able to have a profitable product. Things like slaughtering the animals at a very young age. You can't retire the animals. It costs money. They have to have the new young animals coming in. And so, they're slaughtered at a very young age, separated, castrated, all these horrible inherent cruelties. And then on top of that, it also doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't abused. I mean, I heard horror stories when I was researching for my first book about workers that would, kick and punch and do horrible things to these animals, even with labels like small scale, even, well, not, that's not a label, but even on small scale farms, and labels like humane or family farm. And also another huge point is that big ag does this as well. It's not just small scale, it's not just a small farm. Big ag uses these labels as well. Big ag absolutely uses these labels. They are, constantly using this kind of marketing. They will have certified humane, all of those certifications. I use examples in the book, in my chapter, in my introduction, and in my chapter of Butterball turkey, Tillamook dairy, Fairlife dairy. And these are all situations where there have been, I think most of them are situations where there have been undercover investigations, undercover investigators, these brave people that go undercover in these places with a camera, and they will take video. They'll work for a few weeks at these places and take video of what's going on, and just really, really heart-wrenching tales of what's going on, and I don't want to get too graphic. I try not to get too graphic because it can get awful. What you hear about and what you see in these videos, right? So, but suffice it to say, they are not living a happy life. They are not living in a humane way, and it's really heart-wrenching. So the big industrial players, they are using these labels as well. It is certainly not limited to small operations and small scale. So it's kind of this industry trend across the board to use this labeling and to use this language to really make people feel better about what's going on, right? Because they're learning, they're hearing about these things, they're seeing videos, and so the industry really has to try to use this stuff to appease them. All right, so let's talk about the chicken industry and how chickens are raised. I'm going to kind of get into how the humane hoax is different from, or how they're saying it's different from, but how it's really not from conventional farming. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing what should be a natural way for a chicken to come into the world, right? A mother hen, a soft, cushy nest. She's sitting on the eggs. Do you know that actually chickens and their eggs, mama hens and their eggs can actually communicate vocally? They cluck and coo to each other. The eggs can actually, the little chicks inside can cluck and coo, and they talk to one another even before they're hatched, which I think is just so amazing and endearing and very, very loving. But this is completely eradicated, completely erased, completely, not what is happening in any kind of egg farming and flesh farming, the farming of flesh, the chickens for their flesh. This does not happen. This is the reality. The chicks are born in hatcheries, industrial hatcheries and metal drawers, where they are just crowded in there, never feel the love of a mother hen, never feel a warm nest. They are immediately thrown onto conveyor belts and in machinery and tossed around by the workers. On the right here, this is sexing the babies, where they are determining by feel whether they're male or female, tossing them into the different chutes. The females, this is the egg laying strand of chickens. So for the egg layers, they have been so genetically manipulated to lay so many eggs well beyond their natural capacity. They just really, really, it taxes their body. They lay so many eggs. And the males don't grow fast enough to be profitable for meat, for their flesh. So they're a waste product of the industry. And they throw away these baby males by the billions. The baby males are tossed into the garbage alive. They're tossed into dumpsters outside of the hatcheries to suffocate on the weight of their brothers, die of dehydration, exposure, or they may be ground up alive. Some of them go down these conveyor belts into maceration machines, which are just kind of huge blenders with these metal blades that just grind them up alive to be used for products, for fertilizer, stuff like that. Just horrific, horrific stuff. And I don't want to stay on that picture for too long, but just to think about this, these are babies. These are, sweet, innocent babies that we view in our society as this image of gentleness and love. And we see them at Easter and in the springtime, on imagery on our cards and marketing and stuff like that. And to think that this is happening, that they're being killed on such a massive scale by the billions, it's just unfathomable to me. And again, this happens no matter the label. This is where the small scale, even the backyard chicken farmer is getting their chickens. They are buying their chickens from these hatcheries. So even if you're buying chicks at the feed store or on Craigslist or whatever, or at the farmer's market, you're buying your eggs at the farmer's market or at a cage-free label, all the chicks are funneled through this industry. All the chicks come from these horrible hatcheries that are killing billions of chicks. So there's no way to get away from this if you are producing eggs in some way. All right, so So I used to live in Sonoma County, California. I lived there for many, many years, my whole adult life, really. And there is a lot of this small scale operations going on out there. And I now live in Oregon. I moved up to Oregon just very recently this year. But I lived in Sonoma County for many, many years. And I was really lucky that I actually decided to do on-site research, like an on-site going to these farms. I actually decided to do that, and that was like 12 years ago, about 12, 15 years ago. And I was lucky that I was able to do that at that time because you can't do that now. You really can't do it now. I was, there's now, because of people like me that went up and started asking questions, and other people that went up and started rescuing animals, that we really can't, they're so tight with security now that you're really not able to do it anymore. But I was, and I did, and I just walked right up to these cage-free chicken farming places and organic dairy and all of that. I would just walk right up and just kind of look around, take pictures, ask questions, and it was interesting, how different the different reactions I got. And sometimes I would have a worker or even the owner just kind of show me around, and we would have a long conversation. Or I would get, thrown out quickly. They'd get my number right away and say, get out of here, and I would just leave. But yeah, interesting stuff. But this is what I found when I went around, and unfortunately I didn't get great pictures because, again, this was 12 years ago, and the camera, I don't even know if I used a camera phone. Now I think about it, I might have just used a camera, but of course the quality was really bad. But I got some pictures. So anyway, for a chicken farm, when you walk up to a chicken farm, this is in the Sonoma County area, this is the kind of signs that you would see. You would see keep out, biosecure area, trying to keep you from coming in. And really, there was no way to know that it was a chicken farm, other than I knew. I figured it out because there was no signage or anything. But I knew what was going on. And so this is typically what you would see. Again, you're seeing those keep out signs. You see these, rows and rows of barns, the big, long, windowless barns. And what you didn't see was chickens, right? You didn't really see chickens, even though there were sometimes tens of thousands of chickens on these farms. You rarely saw a chicken. And so I would go up to these places and peer in, and I never got, unfortunately, a good picture peering in because it's so dark. It was so dark in there, and I didn't have a good quality camera. But I didn't take this picture, but this is typically what I would see. And this is a just typical cage-free egg farm, egg building. Now, how the egg industry farms birds in a commercial situation usually now is with the battery cages, right? The battery cages where they're stacked on top of each other, they're crammed into these tiny cages. It would be like living your whole life in a crowded elevator. It's really, really tight and uncomfortable. So, it's a horrible situation. And really, arguably, I would say for many years for us, it's been the kind of what we've used as like the worst of the worst. It's the worst thing, these battery cages. These poor hens are enduring in these battery cages, right? We've as an animal advocacy movement, we've really harped on this. And so the industry responded, and the industry came up with cage-free farming. Okay, so cage-free farming is our new way of farming hens for eggs, and it's really taken off. We see cage-free eggs everywhere. And I'll start by saying that yes, absolutely, getting the birds out of the cages is a good thing. I would never say that it's not a good thing. Any slight improvement in their life, has got to be good. However, unfortunately, The reality for the birds is essentially unchanged. They're just in a big cage now with thousands of birds in these windowless warehouses. It's called a floor system operation. And it's actually the same way that we raise chickens for their flesh. This is the exact same way that we raise chickens for their flesh. And we've said that that has been cruel for many, many years. So nothing has really changed there. They've just gotten the birds out of the cages and thrown them into these, windowless warehouses where they are so crowded. They're on top of each other. They don't have any personal space or room. They don't see the light of day. They aren't able to, have a moment in the sun or do a little dust bath like they love. There's so many things that they connect with the earth with, and they peck around, and they need stimulation and a life. This is not a life for them. It's just a miserable existence. The ammonia builds up in there, the ammonia from their waste, where they can barely breathe, and they're breathing in this ammonia. It causes burning, ammonia burn in their throat, in their mouths, in their lungs. It's it's just awful. And what's frustrating, right, is that while, again, it's good that we've gotten them out of the cages, certainly, all the welfare issues for these birds seems to funnel through this one label, right? These two words, cage free, right? And now all the other issues that they face, all these things I've been talking about, from the hatchery to the horrible existence to the slaughter, are erased. That they don't exist. They're not seen. They're not known. They are just erased from the picture, and they're not acknowledged, right? And so this label is incredibly misleading. It's incredibly misleading. From the beginning of their lives to the end, there is cruelty beyond the cage. And people see this label and they think that the birds are living a stress-free, wonderful life. And that is not the truth. That is very far from the truth. And so we have to keep educating on these labels. And that's why I wrote this book, so that we could expose this hoax.